I had remembered it, but I had waited a long time to go there. Initially, after the liberation, I was absolutely not interested in all that stored stuff, and naturally, I was also rather afraid of it. Afraid of being confronted with things that had belonged to a connection that no longer existed, which were hidden away in a cupboards and boxes and waiting a vain until they were put back in their place again, which had endured all those years because they were things. But gradually everything became more normal again. Bread was getting to be a lighter color. There was a bed you could sleep in unthreatened, a room with a view you are more used to glancing at each day. And one day I noticed it. I was curious about all the positions that would still be at the address. I wanted to see them, touch, remember. After my first visit in the vein of Mrs. Dorling house, I decided to try a second time. Now, girl of about 15 opened the door to me. I asked her if her mother was at home. No, she said, my mother's doing an inroad. No matter, I said, I will wait for her. Now she remembered the address, but she took too long to visit the place. After the freedom, she was on one hand not interested, on the other hand, and was afraid also. She was afraid of getting confronted with the past memories and the connections that no longer existed. It seems that those memories were waiting in vain to put them back in their places as they had suffered all these years because they were only things. Things were getting normal in the protagonist's life, but one day she got curious about all the things that were still at that address. She wanted to see them and touch them. After the first hopeless visit, she decided to try one more time. When she reached Mrs. Darling's home, a girl of 15 years opened the door and the protagonist asked her about mother. She told her that she was outside doing some errands to which the protagonist decided that she would wait for her. Now I followed the girl along the passage. An old-fashioned iron hung candle holder hung next to a mirror. We never used it because it was much more cumbersome than a single candlestick. Won't you sit down? Asked the girl. She held open the door of the living room and I went inside past her. I stopped horrified and I was in a room I knew and did not know. I found myself in the midst of things I did want to see again, but which oppressed me in the stranger atmosphere, or because of the wasteless ways everything was arranged, because of the huge furniture or a mud smell that hung there. I don't know, but I scarcely dared to look around me. The girl moved a chair. I sat down and stared at the woolen tablecloth. I rubbed it. My fingers grew warm from rubbing. I followed the lines of the pattern. Somewhere on the edge there should be a burn mark that had never been repaired. My mother will be back soon, said the girl. I have already made tea for her. Will you have a cup? Thank you. Now the protagonist followed the girl along the passage and there were a candle holder hung next to a mirror and she remembered that she never used it as it was unmanageable. So the girl asked her to sit down as she opened the door for the living room and she stopped and she was disturbed. She was standing in the room which she knew and she didn't. She was standing in the middle of the things which she didn't want to see and they burdened her. Maybe because of the way things were arranged or the humid smell in the room or the ugly furniture, she was scared to look at everything. She sat down on the chair which the girl pulled out for her and she looked at the woolen table. She rubbed it and her fingers felt warm. Now I looked up. The girl puts cup ready on the tea table. She had a broad back, just like her mother. She poured tea from a white pot. All it had was a gold border on a lid, I remembered. She opened a box and took some spoonets out. It's a nice box. I heard my own voice. It was a strange voice, as though each sound was different in this room. Oh, you know that you know about them. She had turned round and brought me my tea. She laughed. My mother says it is empty. We have got lots more. She pointed round the room. See for yourself. I had no need to follow her hand. I knew which things are she meant. I just looked at the still life over the tea table. As a child, I had always fancied the apple of the Potter plate. We use it for everything, she said. Once we even ate off the plates hanging there on the wall. I wanted to so much, but it wasn't anything special. I had found the burn mark on the tablecloth. The girl looked cautioningly at me. Now the protagonist looked up and she saw the girl put 2 cups of tea in front of her, and she had a broke back just like her mother, and she poured tea from the teapot, and it had a gold border on the lid. She opened a box and took some spoon out of it. The protagonist complimented the girl about the box, and she felt worried hearing her own voice. She was sounding different to her. As the girl turned to give her a cup, she asked if she knew about the box. Then she added that it is an antique according to her mother. And she pointed around the room and said that there are more. And she told her to see, although the protagonist did not need to follow her direction. She knew what she was talking about. She glanced over the tea table and she remembered how she used the apple of the water plate. The girl shared that they used the plate for everything, and once they ate off the plate, they were hanging on the wall. Yes, I said, you get so used to touching all these lovely things in the house. You hardly look at them anymore. You only notice when something is missing because it has to be repaired or because you have lent it, for example. Again, I heard the unnatural sound of my voice and I went on. I remember my mother once asked me if I would help her polish the silver. It was a very long time ago, and I was probably bored the day, or perhaps I had to stay at home because I was ill. As she had never asked me before, I asked her which silver she meant, and she replied, surprised, that it was the spoons, forks, and knives, of course. What? That was the strange thing. I didn't know the cutlery we ate of every day was silver. The girl laughed again. I bet you don't know it is either. I looked intently at her. What we eat with? She asked. Well, do you know? She hesitated. She walked on the sideboard and wanted to open a drawer. I will look. It's in here. Now the protagonist said yes and told her that when you are so used to touching things into your house, you hardly notice anything. You only notice when something is missing or it needs to be repaired or because you have lent it. She again found her voice to be unnatural. Now she continued. She told the girl that once her mother asked her if she would help her polish the silver, and it was a long time ago, and she was bored that day. She had to stay that day, maybe she was ill, and she asked her mother what silver is talking about. The mother said it was the spoons, knives, and the forks, but she didn't know that it was silver. The girl laughed and said that she bet she don't know it was either with what they ate with. The protagonist asked if she knew. The girl hesitated and walked to the sideboard and opened a drawer. She said she would see if it was there. I jumped up. I was forgetting the time. I must catch my train. She had her hand on the drawer. I Don't you want to wait for my mother? No, I must go. I walked to the door. The girl pulled the drawer open. I can find my own way. As I walked down the passage, I heard the jigglings of spoon and fork. At the corner of the road, I looked up at the nameplate, Marconi Street. I said I had been at number 46. The address was correct. But now I didn't want to remember it anymore. I wouldn't go back there because the objects they are linked in your memory with the familiar life of former time instantly lose their value. When served from them, you see them again in strange surroundings. And what should I have done with them in a small rented room where the shades of black out papers still hung along with the windows and no more than a handful of cutlery fitted in the narrow table drawer? I resolved to forget the address of all the things I had to forget. That would be the easiest. Now the protagonist jumped and said she forgot the time as she had to catch the train. And the girl asked her if she did not want to wait for her mother. The protagonist still replied that no and said she must leave. The girl pulled the drawer open and the protagonist said she could find her way out and walk down the passage of the heart and ringing spoon and the spoons and the forks. When she reached the corner of the road, she looked at the nameplate again. It said Marconi Street and she was standing at 46. The address was correct, but she doesn't want to remember it anymore and she didn't want to go back. As the things is there reminded her the memories linked with the familiar life of old times, but they lose the value when you are separated from them and you see them again in a strange environment. She thought that of what she would have done in a small rented room where black out paper hung over the window and no cutlery fitted in the narrow drawer. She finally resolved on forgetting the address as she